Hi everyone, this is Mix from Sticks and Ball PH, and today we have a detailed review on the Adidas Yeezy 700 V3 Kyanite. Before we get started, if you like my review on these shoes, please leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section down below as well. Then also make sure to join the SNBPH Sneaker Hunters Facebook group because we do have a nice community of sneakerheads over there, and that's also where I course my monthly raffles. Then also make sure to subscribe because that really helps out the channel a lot. So with that being said, let's take a look at the Yeezy 700 V3 Kyanite. To start things off, this Kyanite colorway of the V3 is actually inspired by the Kyanite mineral, which does have a pretty similar shade of blue to the blue that you can find on the upper. For those who don't know, Yeezy actually started changing up their naming scheme on their shoes because there was a lot of criticism heading Yeezy's way when they revealed the Yeezy 350 V2, which had the Islamic name for the Angel of Death. That also did affect the naming of the 700 V3s because for the first three releases, you still had those sort of biblical names with the V3 Azael, the V3 Alva, and the V3 Azareth. Then of course the issue happened, so after that you had the Safflower V3s, the Clay Browns, and now the Kyanite. I am happy though that they still seem to be pretty creative with their naming because I was definitely concerned after the Clay Brown because Clay Brown is such a plain sounding name. So at least they decided to call these the Kyanite instead of something like Sea Blue. Then now it's time to get into the details or the tech specs on the shoe. So starting off with the traction, the 700 V3 has a full-length herringbone outsole with translucent rubber all throughout. It is nice that Yeezys don't really fool around too much with the traction, since we all know that herringbone is such a tried and true traction pattern, which means you really can't go wrong. I did already try these out once when I went to the office, and it was definitely grippy for mixed casual use. I used it on pavement, on some bathroom tiles, and some wooden floors, and I didn't really have any issues. The rubber is also quite thick, so I think it will be durable as well, and though the rubber is translucent, as you can see it has this yellow look to it, so essentially it won't yellow like an icy sole because it is kinda yellow already. Of course, some people don't like that yellow translucent look, but for me I actually do like it, and at least I don't have to worry about these yellowing. Then for the cushion, this is the main difference between the V3s and the V1s and V2s because both the V1s and the V2s did have full-length boost, while with the V3 you just have full-length EVA foam. The V3 is cheaper than the V1 and the V2, so maybe that's where they cut costs. But of course, if you've felt boost before, then you're kinda wondering why they couldn't put boost in this shoe because they have done it with the previous two models. But of course we do just have that EVA, so how does it feel underfoot? Well, once you do put it on for the first time, it feels a little bit underwhelming because it does feel a little bit dead. It doesn't have much bounce back and it doesn't have a lot of softness to it as well. But once you do break it in, it starts feeling a lot better. The EVA does compress a little bit when you're walking, and the major benefit I found from having that EVA midsole instead of that boost is it feels a lot lighter. It is a very neutral and stable feeling cushion, not just because it's only EVA, but because that EVA is actually still housed within a carrier. That carrier foam on the outside is a lot more dense, and I understand that with the V1s and the V2s that they needed a carrier because boost can get a little too soft, but since this does have an EVA midsole and not a boost midsole, I didn't really see the need for a carrier on the outside. Then lastly, for the cushion, you do have that signature ortholite insole, and it's actually really comfy because you have those crash pads in the heel and forefoot to give you a little bit more underfoot plushness. Then for the materials, the 700 V3 does have an interesting mix because for the main body of the shoe, you have what they call a monofilament mesh. I'm not exactly sure how monofilament mesh is made, but what it does provide is good breathability and good strength while being super thin at the same time. That mesh is actually so thin that you can see through it here on the mid panel, but when you feel it in hand, it feels surprisingly strong. Then on the blue portions of the shoe, you have a little bit of a prime knit overlay, and that's probably the most premium feeling touch on the entire shoe. Then over that, you have this rubbery plastic cage that wraps all the way from the heel to the forefoot. The cage is definitely one of the more interesting pieces on the shoe, but I am happy to say that even though they used a rubbery plastic, it actually isn't stiff and it moves well with your foot. Then on the toe, you do have this piece that looks similar to the 700 V1 or the Yeezy Quantums. The only difference is that with those other shoes, that overlay was a nice suede, while on the 700 V3, they chose to use a thin cut of rubber. This is definitely an interesting choice because I would rather have that premium feeling suede, but when it comes to durability and longevity, this is definitely a more durable material, and it's also a material that's easier to clean because I do have my Yeezy Quantums, and the suede on the toe definitely gets really really dirty and I end up cleaning those a lot. Then lastly, you have a nice and soft neoprene inner boot as well as these thick rope laces. Then for fit and sizing, I did go up half a size with the 700 V3 and it does fit me really well. I did have to check out some reviews of the prior colorways of the 700 V3 because this is my first pair and they all said that you should at least go up half a size because the shoe fits really snug, especially here at the forefoot. I would definitely agree, and since I went up half a size, it kind of fit me perfectly, so I can only imagine how painful it would have been to go through the size. So my recommendation for the sizing on the 700 V3 is that if you have a narrow foot or a normal width foot, definitely go up half a size, and if you have a wide foot, you might be able to go up half a size. However, the safest bet is to go a full size up. The lacing is also pretty interesting because you have that infinity lacing system that Yeezy has been using quite a bit in its newer releases. And essentially what it is you have your standard looking laces, and essentially what you do is you get your foot inside the shoe and then you just pull on this to tighten. They do come with regular laces in the box, however the unfortunate thing is that you're gonna have to cut the laces on the shoe if you want to swap them out for traditional laces. I am probably just gonna keep the infinity lacing system because this is just a casual shoe, so I don't really need like supreme lockdown, so this lacing system would definitely be adequate for just walking around. Then for the aesthetic details, you have that yellow translucent rubber on the outsole, and you also have quite a lot of cutouts that exposes the EVA foam. That EVA foam does have this sort of sea green or turquoise color, and I do like how it pops against that yellow and that white. This color on the EVA foam is also different for every colorway, so with some of the previous colorways, I think you had like red EVA foam or like yellow, but this is definitely one of the nicer colors that they chose. Then on the midsole, that carrier foam is this light cream, and I really like how clean that midsole looks. Then on the upper, it is mostly white or cream because you have white on that rubber cage, white on the mesh, and white on the rubber toe piece. Then for the main pop of color on the shoe, you do have that blue prime knit that's in a sort of striped pattern from the forefoot to the heel. It is interesting because when I saw pictures of them on the internet, I thought the prime knit was all blue, but when I got these in, I realized that even though most of that prime knit is that blue, you also have a little bit of green prime knit here at the forefoot and the heel. I do find it interesting that they decided to put some green in there, but it does work because it is so subtle and doesn't really change the overall clean look of the shoe. And another interesting thing is that you have two patches of this reflective material on the forefoot portion of the tongue, and it is kind of hard to see that, but you can see it when you're looking down while walking. It's just quite weird that they put it in the tongue behind the materials because you really won't see that reflective too much like the V1s and the V2s, which are reflective on the more visible areas of the shoe like the lateral side. Then you also have pretty minimal branding on the shoe. You just have a debossed Adidas logo here at the back, and then you also have some branding on the insole with your Ortholite, Yeezy, and Adidas logos. Then for the overall aesthetics, this Yeezy 700 V3 is definitely a very interesting looking shoe, and it's definitely one of those shoes that's gonna catch everyone's attention when you're wearing them. It just has this very alien-like or organic look to it because you do have that outsole which kind of looks like cells, and then you have that rubber cage that kind of looks like a skeleton. I also forgot to mention that the rubber cage does glow in the dark, which is actually a pretty cool feature which a lot of people like on the V3s. I do like how clean the colors are on this specific Kyanite colorway, and it's definitely my favorite from the V3s they released so far. I would put these number 1, then I'd have the OG colorway, the Azael second, then the Safflower would be third, the Azareth would be fourth, and then the Alva and Clay Brown are pretty much tied for last because I don't like predominantly black shoes. So it is just a very interesting shoe, and I know a lot of people won't rock these, but in my opinion it actually looks good when I wear joggers, and it's just so unique because there's really nothing that looks like this on the market today. That is only my opinion, so please comment down below if you actually like these, or if you're like a lot of people that are just really weirded out by the way that the shoe looks. Then for the price, the Yeezy 700 V3 retails for 12,000 pesos or $200 US. It is definitely cheaper than the 700 V1s and V2s, however you do have to take that with a grain of salt because they did remove the boost, and the V3 also doesn't make use of leathers and suedes like the V1 and the V2, so that kind of explains the price drop. However, it is still a pretty comfy shoe because that EVA foam does have a little bit of softness after you break it in, and the materials aren't that premium, but they do feel really comfy around your foot. So what it really comes down to, this would definitely be worth the $200 if you're someone that really likes the overall aesthetic of the shoe and how unique it looks. I did get my pair from adidas.com and I actually waited in line for them, and I'm just happy that I was able to get these for retail. A lot of resellers did buy this shoe, however the resale prices aren't that bad because they are reselling for around 2,000 pesos or $40 more than the retail. But of course, as always, if you really want this shoe and you weren't able to grab them for retail, I would advise you to wait until the resale prices go down. The demand doesn't seem too high on 700 V3s, especially in this Kyanite colorway, so the prices on these should go down sooner than later. So there you have it guys, that was my detailed review on the Adidas Yeezy 700 V3 Kyanite. Once again, if you haven't already yet, please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon for notifications. It would help us out a lot here at Sneaks and Ball PH.